Thank you for joining us here on Flatbread. It's nice to have you back with us.
I'm Max.
And I'm his dad, and today we are going to be talking about...
Alita, Battle Angel.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's had its opening weekend run. And anyway, we're going to... So yeah.
Yeah, what he said.
It's had its opening weekend run. We went and saw it Thursday night, opening night here for us. There will be some minor spoilers. We're going to try not to spoil the entire movie.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hear any spoilers at all and you haven't seen it yet, pause right here. Go check out the movie because we do recommend it. And then come back and watch this review. If you have seen it, yeah, comment below. Let us know what you thought.
If we missed anything.
We're just going to jump right into it. I like the movie quite a bit.
Me too.
I had heard of the manga, but I hadn't read it up until recently. I've only read the first volume, so keep that in mind. I'm not entirely sure how closely it follows the story. I will say that it is, for the most part, faithful. From what I understand, James Cameron did an interview and said that he basically told the stories from the first two volumes and then pulled material from later volumes.
So basically it follows the story of the first couple books with Motorball pulled forward and woven into it.
So they kind of crammed a whole bunch into it. I did have some problems. We will get into what some of those problems were. But anyway, what are your initial thoughts?
I agree with you. It does very closely follow the manga. A lot of things are very similar. The animation was great. Everything looked really realistic. Alita looked like a real person. Yeah, for the most part.
It was hard to tell for me because it's a motion capture character. There was an actress actually on set. There are some action scenes that you can tell it's total CG. But for the most part, there was an actress. She had. Do you want to explain to our gang out here what the process of that was?
Yeah, it was, she had on this black bodysuit, and it had a bunch of little trackers on her, on all of her joints, and they would use those and build a skeleton off of it in the little 3D space in the computer animation program. Yes. And she had a bunch of points on her face so that they could track all of her motions and movements into the program.
Right. So boys and girls, if you get at all into doing animation, 3D animation, there's a thing within that called tracking, and it basically, you set your points and it tracks the motion. So she had this rig on her head that had two cameras pointed at her face, and she, like Max said, she had all these little dots all over her face. So that's recording, and she had to go through the whole movie like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. So they digitally remove all of that in post. And that way they also have the reference points on her face so they can match all of her expressions. It's really neat.
It really is.
And
really cool to watch.
While we're on that subject, what's the actress's name? Salazar, I think. The girl... I don't have it written down. Rosa Salazar.
I think
correct me if I'm wrong out there, but she plays Alita. She did a fantastic job. Really, really sold it.
Yeah.
There was the manga, and then there was the OVA, which is the video animation. It was a 2-part miniseries, which I believe was released initially in '93. The movie's actually very similar to that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've only read the manga, and I've only seen the movie.
Yeah, it's a lot. The manga and the OVA, the anime, let's just call it the anime.
Yeah.
It's actually very graphic and violent, like heads splattering and dogs getting cut in half and that kind of, it's really violent, and they really toned that down for this because this is a teen movie. It's like a coming of age movie set in this future, like sci-fi world.
Because like even the manga was the movie was toned down from even the manga.
Yes.
Because the manga was really violent, and it was definitely toned down for the movie. Like, when the robots died, it was like bluish silver blood, and only real time there was real blood was when that dog got killed.
Yeah,
and they didn't even show it.
Yeah, that happened off screen. We'll come back to that because that's actually an important story element. They showed a little pool of blood kind of on the floor near where it happened, and Alita, that's where she gets that. If you've seen the trailers or the posters or anything, she's got the little marks. That's where that comes from. She takes the blood
from the dog.
Yeah, and that's a turning point for her character in the movie. So the same thing happens with the dog getting killed.
Oh.
In the manga, but it's same location, same characters, but it's a different context. Like the story is quite a bit different. What year does it take place?
It takes place in I see it. I got it.
I'm working off of notes here, boys and girls.
25, 60.
And to show you some of the madness I've got.
Yeah, it's a bit
like they care, but I've got
it's a lot.
Page.
Falling out.
I know.
Okay.
So anyway, we start off with the 20th Century Fox that transitions into 26th Century Fox. I thought it was a neat little touch right at the beginning. Tells you what kind of movie this is.
It takes place in the year 2653.
2563.
2563. Thank you. And it starts out with this doctor, Dr. Ido, or is it Ito?
It's Dr. Dyson Ito.
Okay, that's right.
And of note, it's 300 years after the fall.
Yeah, which was like a big war.
Yeah, which was the last big war.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Ito is walking through a junkyard and he finds this body, and he brings it to his lab and gives it body parts, basically, and brings it back to life.
Okay, so we're gonna get into spoilers here for about the first 20 or 30 minutes, because this, despite all the flaws, there's pacing issues, there's stuff which we'll come back, we'll get into it as we go along, but there's stuff that doesn't really work. The first 10 to 12 minutes or so, I was kind of like mesmerized, just transfixed at what was happening on the screen. It's gorgeous looking.
Mm-hmm.
The setting, the opening shots of Ito going through the trash heap, which is revealed shortly thereafter that all the trash is actually being dumped out of the sky city
called Zalem.
Did I say she's 300 years old?
Yeah,
about 200 or 300 years old. She has a human brain.
Yeah,
and a cyborg. Is it a human spine?
I think so.
And a cyborg heart.
Mm-hmm.
Which is powered by an antimatter reactor.
Which was something that was unthinkable in that age of technology. It was from before the fall.
It sets up that 300, 400, 500 years in the past that there's this Martian technology that I guess is like nanotechnology, dark matter, that has been lost because most all the people
have been destroyed in the fall. Yeah.
Were white that used that technology, that created it, were wiped out in the war. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, he takes her back to his little lab, which he's kind of like a cyborg surgeon. Yeah, so he's a cyber surgeon.
Yeah, he helps people out. Like if they get super injured, like if they lose a limb, he'll give them a cybernetic limb. Here's
a tip if you're into making movies or writing, or if you want to get into making movies. The opening scenes are critical, and I think this is, like I was saying a minute ago, this to me is why this movie is so good, because the first 20 or 30 minutes really does a good job at setting everything up.
Mm-hmm. Helps you understand the rules of the universe that it's set in.
So let's see, what do we get? We get Dyson's backstory, his relationship with Sharon, his ex-wife. Yeah. Then we get to look at what he does for work, which is he repairs people. Mm-hmm. He does cyborg repairs.
Yeah.
And he's getting paid in fruit. If you ever watched Daredevil, the first season when Matt and Foggy are setting up their law firm, they're having people bringing them like apple pies and chicken dinners, and that's an element that they are going to go broke, representing all these people who can't really pay, but they're trying to do good. Dyson had previously built a cyborg body
for his daughter.
Yes,
and he used that body for Alita.
Yep.
And he named her Alita after his daughter.
Yep.
She was all like, you can't use this as like a substitute for our daughter.
Yeah. Sharon, Dyson Ito's ex-wife.
Yeah.
Is talking about, I see you haven't let go of our daughter. And their daughter did they ever say what was wrong with her? She was wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever specify what was wrong with her, but it's revealed later that he was supposed to have destroyed the body, but he kept it. It sets up some of the characters' backstories. Alita has lost her memory.
Yeah, she doesn't remember anything about what she was before she was rebuilt or anything. So it's kind of, the whole movie is kind of like her remembering past experiences and finding out what her true self really was.
Yeah, they don't really explain why she would have lost her memory. Yeah, her backstory, we kind of get 2 or 3 flashbacks, I think. She has memories that she recalls memories. She's a strong character for a reason. She's got a background in it. Without saying too much. Another thing I think is really good, it does a really good job of world building.
Yeah.
The city that they're in, what do they call it? Iron City?
Iron City, yeah.
Yeah, Iron City, and they talk about how there's all the people that survived the fall came to that city, so it's a mix of people in different languages.
Yeah, a bunch of different cultures.
Yeah, it's all different languages, and Zalem is floating up above it, and it's got these giant tubes.
Yeah.
They say later that the tubes are for sending materials and stuff up to Zalem. And Zalem, I think, is supposed to be some kind of utopia.
Yeah, I think so. They never show Zalem in the movie.
You get a brief glimpse of it, I think early in the movie. You see like the skyline of it.
Yeah.
And then there's another little part where Alita has a flashback. For anybody that, keeps up with who makes these movies, who writes and directs them, and the actors and all that, it's Robert Rodriguez directed the movie. It's got a lot of Robert Rodriguez's touches in it too. Because when Dyson and Alita are walking around and early in the movie, and he's talking about, that's, Zalem, nobody ever goes there, and showing her around the city, you see the mariachi, the little guitarista with the cyborg arms playing the double neck guitar.
Yeah, and he had multiple arms, so he could play that better. I remember that now.
Yeah, he had like 4 arms and the double neck guitar. It was the mariachi. That was straight up Robert Rodriguez. I believe that was probably a callback to some of his earlier movies. Sets up the world, the rules, the love interest is introduced.
Yeah. She meets this guy, Hugo, who happens to be the main love interest in the movie.
It's a romance.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much, but there's the question if people with cyborg parts or they are mostly cyborgs, and how do they pair up with humans to make little babies. So yeah, there was that, and then it's established that she has abilities with the dog. The little dog, the first time she sees the dog, she's sitting at a little cafe outside eating a sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
And Dyson has gone in somewhere and is like, just a minute, and the dog comes up and she's like, oh, hey, little guy, and gives him a bite of her sandwich.
Yeah.
Then the big Centurion comes lumbering down this. Would you like to explain to the kids what Centurions are?
They're like, if you've ever played Minecraft, they're kind of like giant creepers, or they're like big spider things. Big robotic spiders that are kind of like police.
Does Dyson explain that there aren't any police?
Yeah, I think he says that.
Police used to do this kind of work, but now
us hunter warriors. She tries to fight the Centurion, and she gets in a fighting stance and tries to fight it, and then people are like, back up, and Hugo says, I've never seen anyone challenge a Centurion before.
She saves the dog because the dog gets like stuck under it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she does this like roll and maneuver to scoop up the dog, and so that establishes that she has some abilities.
Yeah.
And then it gives her motivation, which is motorball.
Yeah. They see it on a little TV up on one of the buildings, and Dr. Ito says, "I don't want you wasting any of your time on that." That's, yeah, I don't remember what he says, but he's like, he doesn't really like the thought of Alita going and doing something like that. But then Hugo introduces her to motorball because they have like this little practice area, and them and and him and his friends, they all like play motorball over there.
Tanji is his friend.
They play the first time, I think, and Alita like gets knocked over.
Yeah, Tanji knocks her over.
Yeah, and then in the next round she knocks him over and puts the ball in the goal.
Like the world building stuff, there's a lot of little details, like the Centurions are just a thing.
Yeah.
Zalem is some sort of utopia that regular people don't go to. Shirin is from there. Dyson,
because she has that little gem on her forehead.
She has the mark. Dyson reveals later that he's from there. Does he say that early in the movie?
He says that later in the movie because he says he removed the mark himself.
Yeah.
And he had a scar on his forehead because of it.
And that was different in the manga. He had that same little jewel in the manga. Guns are outlawed. He says that guns are outlawed.
That's why
it establishes.
Why they use swords.
Yeah. And the plot gets kicked off. Shirin, his ex-wife, she's going to meet up with him, sees Alita, and there's a little moment where she's obviously recognizes her.
Yeah. Skipping ahead a little bit, there's this scene where Alita's in bed, and she hears Dyson go out, and he has this big suitcase that he's dragging along. Yeah. And he's following this lady, and she wakes up to go follow him, and he brings out all these pieces, and it builds this giant hammer that has a rocket on it, so it, I guess...
Yeah, he can activate it and give him more force.
She jumps down and is like, "Don't do it, don't..." And
yeah, because it's set up early that there's some kind of serial killer.
In the manga, when Dyson has that big hammer, and he's going after that lady, in the manga, she said, "No, you're..." Because the lady had robot arms.
Yeah.
She said, you're killing beautiful women to get parts for me."
Yeah.
And but they didn't. I don't think she said anything like that in the movie.
No, it was a totally different setup. Because in the manga, he pieced Alita together slowly. Because he carried her around in like this little papoose kind of thing on his back for a little bit. And then she had like some like robotic leg or wheels instead of legs.
They find out that the lady he was following is this weird evil lady who...
Yeah, in the movie, the lady he was following was setting a trap for him.
She was like this weird spider thing, like climbing on the walls, and then...
Yeah, she was really bizarre. Yeah. Like, weird. But Alita's handling herself. Doesn't she have a flashback at that? During that scene, or is that later?
I think she does.
She has a flashback of a battle, some kind of battle on the moon.
Yeah, on the moon. They called her 99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
She had the number 99 on her shoulder pad.
That comes back into play later.
Yeah.
A lot of little details like that they set up early, and then there's kind of... It either kind of plays into the story a bit, or there's a payoff.
Then she gets Gruishka. He falls into a hole, and then Dyson gets that lady's head, and he reveals to Alita that he's a hunter warrior.
Yeah. And
he brought her head into this place, and he got money for it.
Yeah, it was a factory. I think it was called Factory 33 or something like that.
Yeah, it was Factory 33. Yep.
But he basically goes up to... I forget what they're called in the manga, but they're like these
little robot heads.
Robot head.
Yeah.
This kind of cylinder, square-looking cylinder with just these big lips and big fat cheeks.
Yeah, super goofy. But he gets money for that.
Yeah.
And I think Alita says she wants to be a hunter warrior.
She wants to be one. He's like, oh no.
That's too dangerous.
Yeah, in the manga, Gruishka is a really... I think he's got a different name. He's a really violent, sadistic...
Like a big monster.
Yeah, he's a giant cyborg monster.
He's like, well, it's like the essence of him is just like this weird like snake head thing that just flies around and eats people's brains.
Yeah.
It's super weird.
Yeah, he eats people's brains.
In the movie,
he takes a baby and is about to eat the baby, and
yeah,
it's really weird.
in the movie, he's just like this big hulking guy.
Yeah, he's a regular guy.
Yeah.
He's got a human head. When they show him getting repaired, they show his head and spine being separated from his body.
Yeah, okay.
Shirin
so it
has her
is.
own lab and where she makes repairs to motorball champions. A little subplot with Hugo is that Vector is manipulating Hugo to basically beat up and take parts off of cyborgs. So they take the motorball champion and just rip his arms off.
Yep.
Vector kills the guy. Yeah. But yeah, Hugo's he's wanting to get enough credits so that he can buy his way back to Zalem.
But it's a trick.
Yeah, Vector lied to him because apparently you can't do that.
It's a trap.
Hugo has what's called a redemption arc. Actually, Hugo is a fine character. I like his redemption arc. Don't really like his backstory because in the manga, his backstory is a lot more tragic. He had a brother who was killed by a hunter warrior because his brother built an illegal airship to get up to Zalem.
Oh, what? Did they talk about that in the movie?
I don't think they mentioned that at all in the movie.
Yeah, because I don't remember that.
I don't think
So was that
I think they just skip right over Hugo's whole backstory. He's shown to be a good guy, just doing bad things.
Yeah.
Because he does later ask Vector why you didn't have to kill the guy,
Yeah. And then he quits his job.
And then he tries to quit and...
Minor spoiler, yeah. What happens is they're taking apart a guy, or his friend is taking apart a guy. Hugo goes there and tells him to stop. He says he's quitting. And then Zapan, that hunter warrior with the sword, he kills the guy that they were taking apart. And he says,
"Oh yeah.
He
right.
framed Hugo and killed the guy and he said that it was Hugo. So then he went after Hugo, trying to kill him to get his bounty. So yeah.
And the Centurions and other hunter warriors were looking for Hugo. So there were some other differences between the manga and the movie, which we won't get into because that'll spoil the movie. I will say, minor spoiler, Alita does end up finding a different body. I actually like the explanation for that in the manga a lot better. It's called a berserker body. And in the manga, it was basically just bodies built for European soldiers.
Okay.
And Dr. Dyson found it in a crashed spaceship at the bottom of like a trench or something like that.
Yeah, and it was similar in the movie too.
Yeah, but there's just kind of in the middle of the movie, sort of out of nowhere, Hugo's like, I want to show you something.
And they go
on this long trek outside the city and into like a jungle.
Sunken ship, like the sunken, they said it's from the United Republic of Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
And Alita goes underwater, and she has like a connection to this ship, and there's a code pad, and she knows the code, like it's a second nature, and she finds the body in there
and brings it back. And
Dr. Dyson he says, if I were to put you in this, if I were to give you this body, you would be too dangerous, and but then she got injured, and then he had no choice but to give her the body.
Yeah, she pitched a fit.
Oh, whatever you were, it's not who you are now.
You have to remember she's a teenager in the movie.
Yep.
She's basically got the mind of a teenager. Yeah, it changes around some plotting and story elements from the manga. She goes to the bar to try to recruit some other hunter killers.
Yeah.
To find Gruishka. Gruishka shows up at the bar and kills the dog.
Yep.
Yeah, he stabs it. Is it with his claw?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, with the establishing something early, she has this kind of forms this little bond with this little dog. It's a little teeny tiny. Is it like a terrier type dog
Yeah.
that she saves, and then it's like after the fight with Alita and all the hunter warriors that you know,
Yeah.
she's basically trash talks them after they say, "I'll get out of here,"
Yeah.
little girl, and
And then she shows
beats
them.
the crap
She
out of
shows
all
them what
of
she's
them.
made of,
Yeah.
and beats the crap out of all of them, and makes a huge mess. And Dr. Dyson's just back there like, I'll pay for the broken chairs,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But then Gruishta comes in, and only one to stand up to him is the dog.
It's
and
the dog, yeah.
Poor doggy ends up getting itself killed.
But that changes Alita's. That's like a turning point for Alita. Her motivation
Yeah.
becomes a bit different. That scene she utters probably the best line in the whole movie, which we can't repeat here because it's
Kid-friendly channel.
that's kind of one of my biggest problems with the movie is there's stuff that I like but I don't like. I didn't really like the bar scene that much. I think I liked the overall scene after it got going, but I didn't like the setup of that scene. I don't mind changes like story or character changes, you know, when adapting like a manga, but in the manga, Dyson did a lot more fighting.
Yeah.
And he was actually the one that went to the bar and was like, "Hey, I've got a big problem. This
Yeah. Yeah.
I need help."
He was a lot more active in the manga, but in the movie he was just kind of there. Sort of.
Yeah. I like the character. I love Christoph Gans or Christoph Waltz. The heck is his name? Christoph Waltz. Is it Christoph Waltz or Gans?
I don't know.
Who the heck is Christoph Gans?
I didn't read the credits. I was just looking for people. That
Anyway, I
knew.
love the actor. He was in a couple of Quentin Tarantino movies. He's a German actor. I love him. I love Nurse Gerhard. I love her.
With the robot
she
arm.
doesn't say much, but yeah, she has this robot arm.
Yeah, and it
with
has a ton of like little pins and fingers for doing.
I love her though. There's some really good character moments. Yeah, so when he takes her outside to show her around, and doesn't she ask, "So what's my name?"
Yeah.
"I'll name you Alita." And he kind of looks over. Nurse Gerhard is standing there, and she has this look on her face, like she knows. And
Yeah.
he kind of gives her a look back, like, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing." So Alita's a good character. Despite being just a really like forced romance, I do
Yeah.
like Hugo. Only other thing I wanted to ask without spoiling, because we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We're going far too long. You get the idea.
Yeah.
It's uneven. It's got problems. I think they tried to cram too much into it. The romance doesn't really work, but it's got a lot of good story. It's got a good story. It tells an actual story. It's not just completely plot driven. It's got great characters, lots of little great character moments. It's a family thing.
Yeah, it is.
You remember watching Spy Kids, don't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole theme of that movie was family.
Yeah, it was.
Because it started out the family doesn't really get along. What are the kids' names? I haven't watched that in a long time.
Carmen and Junie.
Carmen and Junie. Yeah, the boy and the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Carmen is the girl. Junie is the boy.
Yep.
They don't get along. Anyway, just watch Spy Kids. To me, that's one of Rodriguez's best movies. It's got a very similar kind of theme about family.
I see what you mean by that. It does.
Yeah, and I love that movie too. This is going to shock you probably, because I didn't tell you this before after we saw it. I think a case could be made for it being a mistake to make Motorball such a focus of this movie.
Why do you say that?
Because it was too much going on.
Like too much happening on the screen at once?
Yeah, I kind of think it was the couple of sequences we got was kind of like a lot of CG junk all over the screen. It was the second sequence, because there were two sequences with Motorball. The first one was like, what the hell is going on? This looks like Transformers garbage. There's CG crap all over the screen. I don't know what's happening.
I can't keep up with this. My old ass can't keep up with all this.
My old feeble brain. That was one problem, yeah. The second one they did
Just
kind
CG
of like...
crap on the screen.
It was CG garbage all over the screen. It wasn't convincing at all.
I don't know what to say to that. I don't
The second
remember
motorball sequence was better because they zoomed in
Yeah.
on the action. They showed the characters' faces, and I keep wanting to call it rollerball and murder ball.
Murder ball.
Murder ball.
It kind
Kind
of
of
was
is murder ball because
like a lot of people killing each other. on
Alita
there.
straight up murders some people.
Yeah.
I think there were just too many plot threads, too much happening, too many subplots. I think they could have had. I know James Cameron said you know it's like a crime to do Alita without Motorball, like an Alita movie.
Yeah.
But there was plenty of other action though.
Yeah.
They could
All
have
the
teased that. I
fighting.
think it didn't work because it kind of confused Alita's motivation. Early in the movie, she saw like a very brief glimpse of it. She was like, "Ooh, what is that?" You know,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh, that's so cool." It's like a little kid that saw
Yeah.
something cool and was like, "I want to do it."
Yeah.
Which I guess works, but anyway, it's fine. It's fine. Any closing thoughts?
I really like the movie. He likes it.
Surprisingly,
You should go watch. Yeah. Yeah.
I recommend it. Go see it in the theater. As far as the manga or the anime, I don't know if I can really recommend them. Maybe if you're older teen, maybe. Because, like we said, they're really hardcore
Yeah.
and graphic and brutal
A lot
and
more
violent.
graphic than the movie.
Leave us a comment if you've seen the movie or if you plan to.
Subscribe. Be sure to comment down below any ideas, any
Punch down that like button.
thoughts on this video, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.
It's Miller time. What movie is that from? It's Miller time.
I don't know. I feel
What?
like
We just watched that movie.
I feel like I know, but I don't. I don't.
We have the tools and we have the talent. It's Miller
I
time.
don't know. I've heard that. I think I've heard that before. I don't know. I'm not good at memorizing lines.
What movie is that, boys and girls? Anyway,